Wanted to comment a little bit on today's first reading from the book of Genesis. We have Jacob here. He's basically fleeing from his father and his brother. If you recall, he had deceived his father, pretended to be Esau so that he would receive the blessing. And so he's out of favor with his father, and his brother Esau probably wants to kill him. So he's fleeing. But God does not abandon him. And so he has this dream, and he sees the angels of God ascending and descending. And notice the promises that God makes to him, that he will become the father of a multitude of nations, just like he did for Abraham. And this is when Jacob is still not even married yet. So in other words, he's assuring him, don't worry, you're alone now, you're going to a strange land, but I will always be with you. And so the reminder to us to have great faith, to have great trust in God. And this is also brought out in today's gospel reading. We have the account of the woman who had this hemorrhage for 12 years. And she believes that just by touching the hem of Jesus' cloak, she will be healed. Now, we also have this account of the synagogue leader and his daughter who just died. Now, this account in the Gospel of Mark and Luke, it actually goes into more details. So it's almost like Matthew here is doing a short summary of it. And one of the things that is mentioned in the Gospel of Mark and Luke is that she was at the point of death. She hadn't actually died yet, but as our Lord is going there, she dies. But our Lord says to the Pharisee, to the synagogue leader rather, don't worry, so have faith. And sure enough, he does have faith, and our Lord raises her from the dead. And, when we think of such miracles, like it's truly astounding. And, some people say, well, how come we don't have miracles like that today? But you see, the reality is that we do. And in fact, our Lord had told his disciples that you will do even greater things than these. So these kinds of miracles happen even in our own day. And just recently, somebody sent me an email. It was from a website called 1,000 Reasons to Believe. It's a Catholic website. And I think if you subscribe to it, that every day they will send you something to kind of motivate you to have greater faith. Anyways, what the person sent me was very much related to this. It was about a young individual who died. In this case, it was an infant. And I just wanted to relate it to you. I wanted to read it. It's a little bit long, but hopefully you can bear with me. On September the 16th, 2010 at 1:48 p.m., Bonnie Engstrom had a home birth with her third child in Washington, Illinois, after a healthy pregnancy. Unfortunately, the umbilical cord became knotted, cutting off blood, oxygen, and nutriment, and the baby was stillborn. While emergency services were called and Bonnie's husband Travis rushed to baptize his son, whom they had already decided to name James Fulton, Bonnie, the mother, tirelessly repeated a prayer which others around her repeated also. Fulton Sheen, do something. Asking for the intercession of the Venerable Archbishop of Rochester, who died in 1979, and for whom the young parents had a great devotion. The dramatic circumstances of James Fulton Engstrom's birth are well documented both by witnesses and by medical records. There is no doubt that the baby was born lifeless, cyanotic, and cut off of oxygen by a knot in his umbilical cord. All resuscitation attempts failed. When emergency services arrived, mother and child were rushed to the St. Francis Clinic. In the ambulance, the paramedics could not revive James. He had been in cardiac arrest for at least 30 minutes. Clinically, there was nothing to be done. The heart had stopped beating, the electrocardiogram and encephalogram were flat, and the brain had never been oxygenated. The baby was obviously dead. This was confirmed by a blood test carried out on arrival at the clinic. Oxygenated, and baby's blood was comparable to that of someone who had been dead for a week. Nothing more could be done. And yet, against all common sense, the pediatric emergency medical team at this Catholic hospital was still struggling to revive the baby, supported by the constant prayers of the mother and her family. The child had shown no sign of life for exactly 61 minutes. All resuscitation doctors know that after 20 minutes, there is no longer anything humanly possible to hope for. The lack of oxygen leads to irreparable organ damage, starting with the brain. The doctor declared James to be stillborn at 2:50 p.m., but just as he was about to pronounce him dead, the impossible happened. The baby's heart began to beat at the normal rate for a perfectly healthy newborn. James breathed on his own for the first time, and all traces of his prenatal asphyxia disappeared. He was taken to the maternity unit's emergency department under constant supervision. Although the medical team at this Catholic establishment believe in miracles and were convinced that they had just seen one happen before their very eyes, no one dared to reassure the parents. The most likely hypothesis is that the little boy would succumb very quickly to a general malfunction of his vital organs, but this did not happen. When the pediatricians realized that, against all explanation, the baby had survived, they told the Engstroms that they should not rejoice, as the baby's brain had suffered irreversible damage, and James would have cerebral palsy, be in a wheelchair with feeding tubes for the rest of his life, blindness, and probably no mental activity. The Engstroms placed their marriage and their children under the protection of Archbishop Fulton Sheen, who became internationally famous as a radio preacher and the world's first televangelist. Without knowing why, during this third pregnancy, their devotion to Monsignor Sheen grew to the point that they set up a prayer corner in his honor and prayed there every day. They decided to add the bishop's first name, Fulton, to the name James, chosen for their unborn baby. Convinced that they owed their son's survival to Archbishop Sheen, whom they called upon for immediate help, the Engstroms remained confident, knowing that God does nothing by halves. Their faith was greatly rewarded. Although doctors expected James to suffer from massive organ failure, the child developed normally and is now a normal 14-year-old in excellent health. In 2011, a year after James Fulton's birth, when all the medical examinations proved that the child was well and growing normally, the Engstroms family informed the Diocese of Peoria, which is in charge of the cause for the beatification of Fulton Sheen, of the miracle obtained through his intercession. So, miracles happen every day, even in our own age. Astounding miracles such as the one that I just related. Now, in regards to these two miracles accounted in today's gospel reading, one of them is the woman who touches the cloak of Jesus. But the other one, with the ruler of the synagogue, he's interceding on behalf of his daughter. And as you know, the Catholic tradition, the Catholic practice is we call upon the saints to intercede on our behalf. And the account I just read, we have the intercession of Bishop Fulton Sheen asking God to grant this miracle of bringing this dead child, newborn child, back to life, and in such a way that there was no internal damage at all, even though the baby had been dead for 61 minutes. This is something to rejoice in. Now, I just want to mention that website. I had never heard of it before. Thank you to the person who sent it to me. It's called 1,000 Reasons to Believe. As Catholics, we have tons, not just 1,000. We've got tons of reasons to believe. Let us be strong in our faith.